back to my channel Peonies and Paint. Today I'm going to show you how to make an enclosed ecosystem. And the way that this works is basically that water heats up during the day usually and it becomes gas, vapor. And then it hits the cold glass, which then turns it back into liquid. So it becomes little droplets like this and just slides back into the earth. So I actually made another one before this in this jar, but we had some unfortunate events, including a fly invasion. So in the soil that I used, there was like these little tiny maggots basically that then turned into flies. So my entire ecosystem swarmed with flies and I didn't want to open it because I didn't want the flies to get into my apartment. So I just had it closed and like tried to wait it out, and we did all different kind of stupid things to get rid of them, but didn't succeed. And then, because there was too much water in the system and I had planned to like let it breathe for 2 days or something so that it would stabilize, but since we had flies I couldn't do that, so everything started molding and the flower, I don't know if it after I died, but all the flowers like started molding and became all black and dropped, and then like dead flies were on the inside of the glass, like in a little tiny sheet of mold. Yeah, so it was pretty disgusting. And I'll show you it in a clip if you want to see. So we've learned from these mistakes, and this soil, because like I planted an orchid, as you can see, and orchid soil is basically just bark like mushed up into tiny pieces or smaller pieces, and to make it like airy and breathe, and so the water circulates better and stuff. So this time I actually placed it all in the oven for 30 minutes on 100 degrees Celsius to sterilize it, to kill any possible maggot or fly. So after I did that, I also used like, it's a tiny microorganism I think, that's called, like the packaging is called Nemablom, which we use to like treat the plants before I plant them, to make sure that there is no possibility of a fly entering this new system. So yeah, we learned from our mistakes, but now it looks like a pretty happy ecosystem, I'd say.
Okay, so here you see the old ecosystem and the ecosystem collapse that was brought on by the fly invasion. You can see the flies dead on the inside of the glass. And you can also see like the black flower hanging there. Used to be white before and full of life. The orchid has blackened mostly. A few leaves are still okay, but it's moldy and looks rather disgusting actually. So yeah, we're gonna have to empty this out and make a new one. We chose to do this outside because we were afraid it was going to smell really badly from all of the mold and stuff, but it actually didn't smell any different than the rainforest at the close by museum. So we emptied it all out. So after having everything emptied out, I cleaned the vessel and the cork to make sure that nothing stayed inside, no mold or flies or anything like that. And now we'll get to planting. So the things that you will need to make this enclosed ecosystem. Firstly, you need a glass container, a cork, plants, water, soil, flower sticks or barbecue sticks, a rubber band, paper or old newspaper, and soft paper like kitchen towels. The things that I used was a glass jar bought at IKEA, a mini orchid, and another plant also bought at IKEA, and the soil I bought at the food store actually. So as you see, I'm using the paper here to guide the soil into the glass jar without it actually sticking to the sides of the glass jar. And since I'm planting an orchid, I'm using orchid soil, which is basically just bark, which makes it very airy, so I won't need any rocks or gravel or clay balls at the bottom of this. But if you do plant another plant, you might actually need to do that so that you will have good drainage in the jar. And now for the plants. I chose a mini orchid because I thought it looked beautiful and I wanted to have an ecosystem that I could look into and see what was there, not just a green ball. And another plant that I also found at IKEA that I had to separate because they had actually just tied up basically tiny plants together, so it became a big plant, so it was kind of easy. And just make some room for them in the soil and guide them down with my beloved barbecue stick that I got from my mother actually when I left home. Very good tool, and you can use basically anything that's long and thin if you're placing in this type of vessel that you just have at your house. For example, you can use barbecue sticks, flower sticks, a long spoon if you have a smaller vessel, or anything else that you have at your house basically. And then to the tricky part, actually placing the orchid and getting it straight in this glass bottle. It was kind of tricky even with my masterful barbecue stick with a pig, I think it is, on it. If you're a person with small hands, you could probably just stick your hand down, or if you have like a child or somebody with small hands near you, you could come to help out. It's kind of tricky. I was afraid to actually put my hand down, but eventually I dared to, and I actually got my hand out too, which was kind of amazing. So yeah, it was easier to correct the plant using the hands, obviously, but one flower fell down and we didn't want it to start molding, of course, but our efforts to actually get it up failed, so we just left it there. As you see now, I've actually fastened a paper towel to the end of my barbecue spit with rubber bands to clean the insides of the vessel with a bit of water. And now it's only left for one thing to be done. You take your cork and you take it out to your vessel, and then you just put it on top and leave it there. So this is what it's gonna look like when it's done, basically. But as you can see on the inside, there's still quite wet from the water used by cleaning the insides of the vessel from the soil particles. So I will actually have to leave this open for a few days just to get the excess water off, so the system is not too wet, basically.
And that's pretty much it. So now you know how to make your own enclosed ecosystem. Another way to plant a bit more fun, I guess, than just using a regular old pot is to actually use like something you already have at home. For example, I had this glass jar that we had oats in before, and well, now I just decided to plant some plants in it. So I chose succulents. Looks like this inside, and this actually opens, so I can water it whenever it needs water. But these plants don't need that much water, so you should not water them like every day or every other day like you might have to do with other plants. And that was all for me for now. So take care guys, and I'll see you soon. And please like and subscribe if you like this video. Bye!